How to connect an old motherboard with a 12-pins power connector. On an old machine, the PSU died, and I attempted to change it. However, the power connector to the motherboard seems to be a weird 12-pin connector, and I can't seem to find any adapter with the typical 2024 ones. What can I do with these? I am not even sure those really are what I think they are. The computer actually isn't mine, I am just trying to help out a friend. He has a proprietary software installed on it to maneuver a professional cutting machine, and it can't be installed on another machine. I thought about putting the hard drive in another computer and trying to boot from it, but I am afraid the difference in hardware would make the Windows 98 unable to work. I fear to make permanent damage on the system that would require tedious fixing afterwards. Here is the motherboard connector slot. The old PSU's connectors, a bit blurry, sorry. The old PSU model. And the new PSU's connector with 20 pins.
Edit: I appreciate all the thumbs ups, but as other users have pointed out, this is likely not a net connector. After doing more research, my best suggestion to the op is to purchase the original part number item to ensure compatibility with this system. There are no second chances. Once the wrong power supply is plugged in, the motherboard is toast. It appears, based on research, that this system is a compact Presario 22XX series. The specs of that series, and references to the original power supply part number suggest that this is an ATX-style power supply. The extra 6-pin plug is typically an auxiliary connection. However, it is highly likely, as suggested by other commentators, that this is a completely proprietary power supply. A lot of manufacturers are guilty of creating non-standard systems around this era. I cannot find any standard power supplies that use 12-pin AT/PC style power connectors and a 6-pin auxiliary connector. What is for sure, is that this power supply, not clearly seen in the ops photo, is also proprietary in shape and size. So, I have left the original message below, but I think it is prudent to not take chances given the sensitive nature of this repair. Just spend the money on getting the exact original part number. Original. The connector on your motherboard is an AT connector. The power supply you are trying to hook up is an ATX connector. You'll need to buy an AT power supply. When you hook it up, make sure you attach the two motherboard power connectors with the black wires next to each other. This URL. Now, I have to ask, what are you doing with this computer from 20+ years ago?
As mentioned in the other answer, that is an old AT-style power connector. It is possible to connect an AT power supply using an adapter, but there are a couple of caveats. Your system may need -5V, which modern AT SUSs don't have, some but not all older ones do. AT power supplies are not controlled by the motherboard but by a separate power switch. The adapter is likely to have a pair of wires for connecting to your power switch. Depending on your case design, you may be able to hook up the existing power switch, or you may need to fit a new one to the case somehow.
A quick Google search will soon give many results for AT power supplies. Adapters for ATX seem quite mad, particularly given that the machine is for a control machine, so I'm assuming that there is an ESA card interfacing the hardware. There may be a custom BIOS for the control card, making moving it very difficult. Add-in cards may need -5V even if the motherboard doesn't need it to boot, so if you try converting an ATX PSU, be prepared for the machine to not control anything, even if it powers. Like the other answers say, get an AT power supply. I'd also image the hard drive whilst I was about it, so this can be replaced if it goes. Edit. After seeing the other answer, that this is neither AT or ATX, a Google search of the part number on the PSU indicates this came from a compact Presario. Those things use AT per PSU, so you'll need a compact power supply, completely non-standard.
This is neither ATX nor AT power supply. The two main plugs, P8 and P9, are regular AT, but there is also an unaccounted for third one, and PSU provides plus 3.3V and plus 5 VSB rails, which is something that AT SUS don't do. Also, it doesn't have -5V rail, which regular AT should have. My guess is that's an intermediate era PSU, which internally is ATX, hence the ATX-like configuration of lines, but uses 2 AT-style connectors plus a proprietary third one. Your best bet, Imho, is to seek help from some hacker with basic soldering skills. Cables from the dead one could most likely be combined with a working ATX PSU to get an operational replacement. There is a possibility that the third connector is P10/P11, which supplies 3.3 V, but if that's the case, where does plus 5 VSB line go? You can buy an ATX to add, with P10 adapter, but if the third one is not P10 but proprietary, with plus 5 VSB, it can end badly. Try asking at this URL, maybe someone will recognize the setup. But provide better pictures of the plugs and motherboard with visible cable color configuration and markings.
If you want to support the channel, please consider liking and subscribing.